Mattias Cormann has unveiled his inner greenie. Australia's finance minister and the leader of the coalition in the Senate has apparently told German politicians and business people about all the wonderful opportunities of the Green New Deal, about the transition to renewable energy technologies, of the target of net zero emissions, of the future with clean energy. Why was he doing this? Well, he was trying to get a job with the OECD, which is the heavyweight organisation that represents all the Western democracies. And Mattias Cormann knows that they are not going to select someone who does not agree with the principles of Green New Deal, about the clean energy transition, or rejects climate science and refuses to act on it. And the irony of all this is that this is exactly who Mattias Cormann is. Just a few weeks ago, he delivered a federal budget with a massive deficit, more than $200 billion, and a forecast of a growing country debt of $1 trillion. Yet there was nothing in there about a Green New Deal. There was no mention of renewables. There was barely a reference to energy efficiency, and there was almost nothing about the transition to clean energy. Instead, it was all about gas. And it was a case of you're either for gas, or you're against it, or you're for Australia, or you're against Australia. It became a rallying cry for patriots, at least on the coalition side of the government. Why is this frustrating? Well, Mattias Cormann was one of the people who danced on the floor of Parliament a few years ago when the carbon price was scuppered by the Abbott government. We are told that he was one of the main stumbling blocks to prevent new finance and expanded portfolios for key agencies such as the Clean Energy Finance Corporation and the Australian Energy Renewable Agency. And this is the same man, of course, who led the insurrection, or enabled the insurrection against Malcolm Turnbull when the former Prime Minister dared to suggest anything that looked remotely like a half-sensible climate and energy policy. So what does this tell us about politicians? Well, one, it tells us that in some cases they will say anything to get a vote or to get a job. It also tells us that many of them don't believe in anything at all, because all they're interested is in the vote. They will say one thing to another, say one thing to somebody else. One week Mattias Cormann is telling us that it's got to be about gas. The next week he's telling us about a green recovery and the transition to renewables. And that's the frustration in Australia. We were told last week by the International Energy Agency that solar power is the cheapest form of electricity that has ever been produced. That's the situation across the world. And even if you add grid integration technologies such as battery storage and smart software, it's still the cheapest option of all those available. Just last week, South Australia reached 100% solar for the first time ever. First time ever in the world. What did that mean? For half an hour, it was solar powered, solar fueled. And the Australian Energy Market Operator, who makes sure that the lights keep on, has a plan for Australia in 20 years' time to reach this level with wind and solar, 94% wind and solar as an annual average, not just in 30-minute bursts, but as an annual average. And they've put out a 20-year blueprint on how that can be done. And all the scientists and all the business people are telling us that we can reach net zero emissions by 2050. We have the technologies, it'll probably save us money, it'll grow the economy, and it can be done. And yet here we are, we hear from the coalition government that we can't move to renewables. If the coal leaves the grid, then the lights will go out, that batteries are no better than the Kardashians, that they're like the big banana. It's really frustrating. We have people who are supposedly intelligent. They understand reports, they understand what's told to them, yet they continue to say the exact opposite. Quite deliberately, they are standing in the way of progress, of the transition. That makes it really frustrating. It also makes it a crime.